Welcome to BPM. I got my lively co-host today, Christina Stanton. If you want to mute yourself, feel free.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, how's it going? Nice to have you join me today on this, how to say, unordinary podcast. Because normally on a Saturday, it's a music podcast, so I have musicians on, but today I got a guest on. So welcome, you're a special person. You special person, you special. Yeah. So hi, Christina. My sister's actually named Christina. So it's also I've had guests on that I've got the same, I've got a big family and they've all got the same names as my family members. So I'm like, wow, your name that too. It's amazing.
Christina is a great international name.
Yeah.
There's, in every country that seems to be a Christina. So it's a good solid name.
Yeah, I love it. So anyway, where are you from, Christina?
So I'm originally from the state of Florida. Ooh. And I've lived up in New York City since I was 23.
Okay. Have you adopted the New York attitude now? Get out of the way.
It depends on the day. No, I would say I'm a great mix of a Southern American culture and New York City culture. I think I'm a perfect mix.
I can hear it
nice,
in your voice.
But you can't be too rude to me, and I'm not going to say something. So it's a perfect mix.
Okay. So
which Southerners are like that too. You can't be rude to Southerners either.
That's true. Which one do you prefer? I don't know if you're allowed to answer this question. Which one do you prefer, Florida or New York?
For my personality, New York City. It's just suits me a little bit better. But I'm one of these. Do you know much about the Enneagram?
Who?
Enneagram. It's a personality test. So I'm an Enneagram 7, which likes a lot of activity, and they have fear of missing out, and
okay. So you're like an extrovert. Yeah, I'm probably the same as you then. We're probably about the same. I'm gonna have to check that up, and I'll let you know where I rank.
Okay. Yeah,
is 7 the highest, or is it 8, 9,
9
or
is
10?
the highest.
9 is the highest. I'm probably around there, 7 to 9. I'm pretty sure.
It doesn't really work like that, but you actually do act like a 7.
It's like I don't even want to go to sleep most of the time. Like I'm not sleeping. I got things to do. I might miss something, and I got a daughter who's probably exactly the same. Actually, she never goes to sleep. She doesn't want to sleep, and she's only 7. Yeah, crazy.
That's it. Or do you do that like squirrel? You know what I mean by that, right? You get distracted because there's stuff going on around you.
Yeah.
You're a 7.
I'm definitely 7. I don't even have to do tests.
Fun though. You don't want to be anything else. 7s have a lot of fun. We value fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, actually, just quickly, you're in New York, Florida. I think that's like one of the 4 big states, isn't it? You got I would say California and
it's
Texas.
A popular state. It's
Texas.
It's not a boring state. It's one of those states where everybody, any type of person you can find in the United States, there's somebody represented in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
It's a very diverse state.
Yeah. So anyway, why you reached out to me, because I don't know, I think you got the look of the devil. If I'm allowed to say that, I don't know if you're a religious person. You're religious.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got the look of Jesus.
Wait, let me get this straight. Do I have the look of the devil or the look of Jesus? Those are definitely different things.
Sorry, I said the luck of Jesus.
I'm afraid to ask what I look like. So
no. Sorry, I'm saying luck. I'm sorry if my accent is getting over you here, but you're lucky.
Okay.
You get it?
Yes, I get it.
You're lucky. You don't look like Jesus. You're lucky like Jesus, or you got the look of the devil.
Let's just say that I do love my Jesus. I love my Jesus.
Okay, so we'll keep it like that. You got the look of the Jesus, or the Jesus. you was you happened to be around when that tragedy happened on 9/11.
Mm-hmm. It was.
Can you run us? I mean, you might as well start from the beginning. I don't know how close you was to it or if you was in the building, but let us know. Tell us the story.
Sure. You know, really, this story comes from where my husband and I were living. So we were living 6 blocks away from the World Trade Center complex in Lower Manhattan. So we lived at a building called 21 West. So again, 6 blocks away, and we had actually just moved there. We'd only moved there 2 months before. So our stuff was still in boxes. We were newlyweds. We were, I think, 31, 30, and 35, I think. But we were just kind of starting out life together. And I was really happy to be down in Lower Manhattan. In my single days, I lived in Times Square, and Times Square is fabulous. But I'm a licensed New York City tour guide. So I've been a tour guide since 1995. So I guess it would have been, 8 years by then. And I did a lot of tours. I still do. I'm still a licensed New York City tour guide. I did a lot of tours in Lower Manhattan, like Wall Street and Statue of Liberty, blah, blah, blah. That's where you get all those historic areas, which is down there. So I was like, this is great. I worked on here, meaning I'm a tour guide. I give walking tours of this area all the time. And I now live here. So it's all fabulous. It's all coming together. And I met this wonderful man and we were happy. Everything was good. We had found this, my husband actually had found this wonderful apartment on the 24th floor. So we had this wonderful terrace. And I don't know how it is where you live, but outdoor space, private outdoor space is rare. I'm like there's not a lot of terraces that people have. In fact, I think when we got the apartment, I'd never been on somebody's terrace before. So I was like, wow, this is awesome. But what was really awesome about that terrace, the fact that we had one, we had this incredible view. So we had literally a beeline picture of the Twin Towers. And I think I have a picture real quick of what our view looked like. Let's see if I can see that real quick. Oh, dadgum, I didn't bring it up. Well, I'll tell you what, you'll have to see this. You can see those pictures on my website. They're all there on my book website. So at any rate, so we had this wonderful view of the Twin Towers. And so that morning of 9/11, I was actually still asleep. My husband ran into the bedroom and shook me awake and said, something happened in the North Tower. Come to the terrace. Let's see what's going on. So we ran out into the terrace. And it was like this crazy, like you're watching this wide, big screen TV. And the North Tower was on fire and you could see smoke coming out on either side of the building from our vantage point. And of course, it's shocking. I mean, to see, even if you saw a 2-story building on fire, you'd be shocked. That's it.
Picture.
We were so young and cute. Look how cute we were. How young.
I mean, you're still cute now, but obviously they had you from the side.
Yeah. So
that's something.
But yeah, so I was, I guess, 31 there, and my husband was 35. And we only have one picture of us on that terrace. And the Twin Towers in the background were so tall that we actually couldn't capture those towers in one shot. But that lops off about 30 floors. I mean, that's how tall those things were. I mean, people don't understand they were 110 floors, a quarter mile in the sky. They were a massive building. So to see a building that monstrous on fire, it's the worst thing in the world, right? And you also knew that was affecting so many people. But we did think that was a bomb, that somebody had snuck a bomb in the building. We didn't see that plane come into the tower, and they weren't reporting much. We didn't even really turn on, the media to find out what was going on, because it all happened so fast. So right over our right-hand shoulder, the second plane came, flew right over us, turned about 8 o'clock and 2 o'clock, I call it, and went right in the South Tower. And, we were so close to those buildings, and that plane was moving so fast that it actually, the shock waves blew us back into our apartment and knocked me out.
Whoa.
So it was a physical, first, to see something like that is just so shocking and unexplainable. Your body almost can't take it in. But then again, it blew us back into the building. And ever since then, my hearing hasn't been the same. I need to be wearing hearing aids every day. I just don't get around to it. But I woke up with my dog literally jumping on me. Our dog was just completely was as upset as we were. He knew something bad had just happened. And we ran down the 24 flights. And, if you know anything about the topography of Manhattan, it's an island.
Yeah.
And we were at the very end, right? The very, very tip of Manhattan is a 25-acre park called Battery Park, right? So when there's danger around you, of course, your inner alarm says, get as far away as you can from the danger. So for us, the far away was Battery Park. You see a lot of people walking north or walking across the Brooklyn Bridge, but since we were kind of caught south of the Twin Towers, south is what we had to go to. So we thought, all of the danger is north, don't go north. So south, but here's the problem. Once you get south in Battery Park, you're surrounded by water, right? You have the Hudson, you have the East River, and you have the New York Harbor. So you're surrounded by water once you get there, but that was okay because we thought that we were totally safe once we got there. So when we got to Battery Park, of course, I'm wearing my pajamas. We ran out in a hurry, right? And no shoes.
No
right?
shoes.
Who does that? Yeah, that's how crazed. And also I think that when I got knocked out, I hit my head pretty hard. And I feel like I was kind of half-mast for the rest of the morning. Yeah. At any rate, so we're down there. I put on my husband's socks and in my pajamas. And so the Twin Towers came down all around us. And so we really weren't safe at all. For one thing, if they had fallen lengthwise in a direction, they would have killed so many more people. But they imploded, which was actually a blessing. But we all thought that because it sounded like it was falling towards us. So people went nuts. They pitched themselves into the New York Harbor and tried to swim to Governor's Island. It was just this crazy, horrible scene. But all of a sudden we were covered with the dust and debris. And I do actually, again, have some pictures of that, what that looks like on my website. But it looked like we were in some kind of a snow globe. Do you know what that is?
Sure.
Something else. So it was insane. We couldn't breathe. And that was, again, we thought that we might be nearing our end. We couldn't find a place to breathe. That's it. And in fact, this interesting guy took these pictures. A lot of people weren't taking cell phone pictures at the time because cell phones were still pretty new. Yeah. But this one guy, Scott, had the frame of mind, had his, faculties together enough to take these pictures. And I'm so glad he did. He actually left and moved to Australia not too long after 9/11.
He's like,
I understand. But anyway, that's Scott, but that's what it looked like. It was, you just couldn't, you were just trying to find an air pocket in which to breathe, and it was mad chaos. And so right there is where we found ourselves, that is behind the World Financial Center, which is across the street from the World Trade Center. So, another element that a lot of people don't think of that day is that it sparked a huge amount of fires. Okay. So in fact, a lot of people don't know the last fire was put out 90 days after 9/11. So not
90 days.
Yep. It's a fact that a lot of people don't know. And so the fires were just incredible. They were raging, and the black smoke came to Battery Park. It literally it was like a wall of smoke. And again, a lot of screams, people pitching themselves into the water because we were trapped at that point. So what we thought was safety, it turned out to be a place where we were trapped. And my husband and I did say goodbye to each other. I just, in that kind of situation, you're just hoping that if the end is near, that you go quick, that you're not in any pain. And I remember feeling actually very happy that I was with my husband because cell phones weren't working. So all of these people who were in the worst situation of their lives, for one thing, didn't know what was going on. None of our cell phones were working. We'd all evacuated from our apartments so we couldn't see the TV. It was happening to us, and people watching on TV knew more about what was going on than us it was happening to. And our cell phones weren't working. So a lot of people were out without their babies, without their children, without their spouses, and we're just alone. And that's it. I just remember just being so glad I was with my husband because I was aware that all those people were probably alone without their loved ones, enduring this hell on earth. So we found ourselves in that last picture that you put up, and we were trapped, nowhere to go, still trying to breathe, and still feeling we were in danger. And all of a sudden I look out on the Hudson, and there were all these boats that were coming up the Hudson. And I'm a tour guide. I do tours on boats. I see boats all the time. But this was just this huge flotilla of tugboats and party boats and ferries and dinner cruises, any kind of boat was coming up. So unbeknownst to me, the Coast Guard, the U.S. Coast Guard, knew that there were thousands of people that were trapped where we were. And they had let out a CB radio call saying, hey, boat owners, boat operators, go over and start picking people up. I don't care where you take them, pitch them off anywhere you want to, but we got to get these people off this island because they're trapped and they're in danger. So they didn't know if anybody would respond. And then all of these boats responded. I even heard, I've never exactly seen any pictures of it, but I've heard even canoes. People brought over canoes. And I mean, we're talking, they really did respond. And we were taken off the island and dropped off in New Jersey. And only probably a year or two later did I hear that we were one of 500,000 people who were taken off the island of Manhattan that day. And it was the largest boat evacuation in history, even larger than Dunkirk.
Okay.
So, and it's one of those stories that I think hasn't hit the media so well, even though I know that this year, being the 20th anniversary, they're going to be doing lots and lots of specials on that particular, what you would call a sub-story of 9/11. But it's a beautiful story of how people really came together to try to help their fellow man in trouble. We were dropped off in New Jersey, and we ended up spending the night in a hotel, but we weren't in the lap of luxury. You got to understand, I was still slumming around in my pajamas. I was completely yellow. My husband, my dog, we barely were able to eat anything all day. It was just this crazy situation. I don't know New Jersey myself very well. So we were also dropped off in an area. We didn't know what was going on. I didn't have my purse. Thank goodness my husband had the presence of mind to grab his wallet. But the next day we got back into Manhattan, and the mayor had made a mandate that everybody had to vacate Lower Manhattan. So we were 2 of 25,000 people who live in neighborhoods around the attack zone who weren't allowed to go home for a couple of weeks. So we just kind of, to tell you the truth, couch surfed for a couple of weeks. And so we couch surfed, and that's where I talk about in my book, where I just was amazed at the generosity of New Yorkers who, my goodness, I mean, I went to donation depots to get toiletries and food, and New Yorkers just went nutty dropping off things at donations. Some random girl that I never even met donated her apartment for us to stay in.
Okay.
I mean, she didn't even come back to find if we burned the place down or stole the silver or anything like that. So that was actually lovely to see New Yorkers be so helpful and wonderful to all of us who were displaced. And then when we got back to the apartment, it really wasn't livable. And so, to tell you the truth, we ended up renting a car and driving down to Florida and staying with my mom until the next January. We were already kind of showing signs of PTSD. We needed to get away. We needed to collect ourselves. We got some therapy. Our dog almost died in 9/11 because that dust and debris was toxic. He had licked it off the ground, tried to lick it off his fur. It was ground up glass. It had shredded his insides. He was hovering between life and death for a couple of weeks. We just needed to get away, collect ourselves. Our dog did recover from that. And then lastly, my husband found out one of his good friends died in the North Tower. So for us, it just kind of went on and on and on. And, years later, I wrote a book about our experience, but I wrote about it from the perspective of a resident of the neighborhood in which 9/11 happened, because I'd never seen a book from that perspective. And I just thought that I'm just adding a voice to what happened that day, just from a different viewpoint. But it was a game changer for us. It's still, I'd say it's kind of background noise in our lives to this day.
Yeah. Actually, just quickly, your about the coming together of people. I remember when I was in Japan and I spoke to some of the locals there, and obviously they had that big earthquake in 2011. You remember it, the tsunami? Yeah. Actually, I don't think it was in Japan. I think it started off in Indonesia or Bali or somewhere, and it went across to Japan and killed a load of people. Hyason?
Anyway, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I remember speaking to them. They were so surprised how the people came together and really just, it's weird how, like, if you look at today and you see all the killings and everything going on, and you think, why did it take a disaster to get people to come together. Why can't we just come together? And actually, we are in a constant disaster, actually, when you look at the way things are run here on the planet, especially with your second episode, obviously the whole disease that's going on at the moment, this virus. So I just don't understand why people need it to go so far before they're like, okay, actually, maybe we should love our neighbors.
I have to say, though, somebody had mentioned to me yesterday that they had heard that, oh yeah, that's right. They had gone to New York, they had visited New York, and they had a cab driver who said that people in New York City were actually very friendly, and they've been friendly since 9/11. And that person had asked me if I found that was true. I said, absolutely, because I lived in New York City about 8 years before the attacks. And yeah, I thought it was a pretty cold city. I thought it was tough. I thought people kind of looked out for themselves, and that was just the culture. And I just moved there from Florida, so I thought it was the culture. And I didn't think it was great to not extend yourself for your fellow man, but I thought, oh, well, that's just the way it rolls here, right? But after 9/11, I'm telling you, people were so bonded through that experience that I'm telling you, to this day, it is a different New York than it was before 9/11. To this day, I believe that very much.
Actually, now I've been to New York, actually. I was in New York, I think a year after 9/11.
Interesting.
So I saw like obviously the rubbles and stuff. You was probably already gone by then. And I drove past and there was telling about it, and I was like, whoa, look at this, man. I was just in awe. Like, you New York the first time, you're like, wow, this is a great place. I see it on TV all the time.
Yeah, it's a cool city. And I do think people there are super friendly. They do want to help. If you're lost, if you're a tourist, everybody just steps in to help. What also helped with that is our mayor initiated a certain number that you could dial if you saw a non-emergency. So for instance, we have 911, but he initiated 311. So for instance, you were supposed to be on the lookout for more terrorists. If you saw a backpack on the road, that's where you're supposed to call 311 and report that, hey, there's a and I actually did that at one point. There's a backpack at the corner of Broadway and Leonard. Can you send somebody over to check it out? And people realized, the more aware we are of our surroundings and of each other, that means the safer you're going to be. So I think people also kind of just saw themselves in this as like, well, me helping to keep everybody safe is keeping me safe. So there was something in it for them. But whatever the motivation, I think New York is a very friendly place.
Yeah, sure. I think so that must have been really scary though. Like you're running away. I'm bouncing around a little bit here. You're running away. Obviously, smoke and fogs everywhere, and you don't know what's going on. It's like, okay,
right.
And what you just said about, you said goodbye to your husband, man, that really hit me. I don't know if you saw that on my face, but I was like, wow. Because I always have this fear, I've got 3 kids, I've got a wife, and I always feel like, what if, something happens, it's your last moment, and you've got to say to them, look, you're not going to make it. We're not going to make it. This is it. I can imagine for you guys, that was probably the moment where, reality sets in, you think someone's attacked. You watch all these movies like The Day After Tomorrow or whatever, and you see all these big waves coming in, and you start thinking to yourself, what if I'm in this situation? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And you had that, you lived that experience once, well, maybe even twice, actually, when we get to the second story. Yeah, man, that's so yeah, after chest, I'm not going to cry or anything. In a second.
It's tough. It is tough. Again, like my husband and I don't even have children. We have our dog, but still, it's. I can imagine all these parents who, a lot of them weren't even with their children. I mean, you imagine there were nursery schools where the caretakers all of a sudden were in charge of all these babies' lives. Because there was tons of schools near the attack zone, a ton of them. And it just must have been hell for parents, absolute hell, and hell for teachers and principals to know what to do next with all of these kids in their care. But it is so daunting to feel that you're in such bodily danger. And also, we live in the age of information. I mean, we're used to knowing what's going on at around the world at any point. Again, it was happening to us and we had no idea what was going on. That was so daunting. That was so scary. We didn't have access to cell phones. So I have to say, that could happen again when cell systems get overloaded and the whole cell system explodes and we can't call and talk to each other and communicate with each other. So after that, my husband and I definitely came up with an exit plan should that ever happen and our cell phones aren't working. So we have a place where we're going to meet and we'll somehow find our way there. But it's in this day and age, it's really good to have some kind of a strategy and some kind of here's what you do in this situation, because if we can't talk to each other, because it could happen. But that really was a terrible feeling of not being able to talk to people and not to be able to contact loved ones. Again, I was very aware that people were going through that, and I was very happy that I was with my husband.
Actually, you know what? Saying that, I don't know if this happened in this case, but I had what was his name? He wrote, he did the film, The Last House Standing. I can't remember his name. It doesn't come back to me at the moment. He said that obviously one of these big hurricanes that came through, where was it? It was in Florida too, I guess. And there was one house that took out all the houses. Yes. I don't know if you know this.
Yeah, I've seen that picture too.
Yeah. That's
very
the
stark.
Guy. Yeah. And he said that they shut off the mobile networks and the power. So I'm wondering if that's something they do. It's protocol that they say, okay, if something big happens like this, we shut off the mobile networks or even the power, just in case.
Right. So, but I think recently our an area in the United States, the cell network went down. I'm trying to think of what had happened. It was like 2 or 3 years ago. But if everybody gets on their cell service will crack. And then, so, I mean, it's not it's a reality that we can't completely rely on our electronics. We have to have an escape plan, an exit plan, and be resourceful for when and if that happens. But it was very daunting, and the idea is that you're not in control, and you might be on the precipice of dying. That is a daunting, thought, and it is scary. And I've been through that twice. And again, you're just wanting it to be quick. You don't want to suffer. You don't want people around you suffering. And you're almost going through like a mental Rolodex of, okay, so what do I, if these are my last moments, what does that mean? What do I want for my last thoughts? And in both cases, that's what I thought of, like, how do I want to go? What do I want to go fighting? Do I want to go mad? Do I want to go peacefully? Like, how do I go? Like, you just want, you're trying to do, again, a whole mental checklist of if I'm in this situation, what do I need to do to be able to feel like I'm leaving in the best place possible? And I've been through that twice, and it's pretty something.
She's saying that when my friend was actually in Japan when that whole tsunami took place, and he told me what he did on the day, because he didn't know, but he's not really someone who's scared of death. He said he just sat down in the middle of the street and just prayed, and that was it. And the people were going past him saying, "Hey, you got to get up. You shouldn't stay here." He was like, "No, I'm okay. I'm okay." And I think that's this inner peace that you have. It's like some people are like that. I mean, I'd be kicking and screaming, "No!"
Right. And I remember when things got really hairy down in Battery Park with the smoke and the dust and the debris and not being able to smell and to breathe. I remember I saw this one girl crying, and she was the only one that was crying. There was no one else around her crying. We were all in such a survivor mode. It's almost like a lot of instincts had turned off in order to just try to get through. I remember looking at her thinking that it was the strangest thing in the world that she was crying right now. But it's just so interesting of how we all react in these kind of extreme situations.
She probably lost her phone or something, like, I've lost my wallet. You're like, the world's crumbling around you. Yeah, but I need my wallet. You can imagine some of the entitled people today are like that, actually. you know.
And I'm not making fun of her. I just didn't. Crying was the last thing from my mind.
Yeah, definitely.
I had turned off by then.
Definitely one thing your survival plan should be a CB or walkie-talkies. Definitely.
Right.
Yeah, that's definitely what you need. Because
Yes,
they always work.
agreed.
They always work. And as long as you got one of those, you pretty much keep in contact with everyone, even the military. So
Well, you know what they said after 9/11 is that you should put together almost like a pack
yeah.
or a backpack of things that you would need. And I did. It's still here in my closet. But there's face masks, there's lots of water, there's cash, there's a credit card. There is there are at one point, at least I thought they were CB radios, but yeah, I have different things in there. Just like you just want to go, just grab and go.
No.
Yeah.
That's an amazing story. That's really interesting to see or hear your story, personal story as well, from a first-hand point of view. That's really nice. Okay, so the next story was, I guess it was more recent, obviously, because we're still amongst things. COVID. So you did you beat it? Or did it take your life? I don't know. How does it work? Because I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm like, okay, oh, you're still there, yeah. I'm still trying to figure this COVID thing out. So a virus came from China, somehow infected every corner of the world in a matter of weeks. And I don't know. So please tell me.
So in March of 2020, last year, there were rumblings at the beginning of March that it was coming, that it was going to be bad. There were rumblings, but it was when the city started shutting down, it was still a shock. And I still think everybody was just shocked that this was happening, shocked that it was here. It was about killing people. But I remember just kind of like looking around. I'm a tour guide. I had a whole year packed full of tours. I tour almost every day of my life, unless I'm traveling. And all my tours, all of a sudden, kaboom, they all went away and they were canceled. And literally walking on the street and watching business owners take metal grates and pull them down and lock them as if they're getting ready for a typhoon or a hurricane was really freaky. And I contracted it right away, with that huge wave that killed so many people in those early days in New York. So I knew I was COVID positive, I believe by March 17th, if I remember correctly. And I have to backtrack a little here. If you remember, I said we were covered by dust and debris. When the towers came down, they basically pulverized and formed this toxic dust that had wood and human remains and electrical equipment and ground up glass. And, again, my dog licked himself. That's one of the reasons why he almost died, because it was a toxic mix and a harmful mix. And so a lot of people who survived 9/11, who were down in Lower Manhattan, people who worked on the pile, rescue workers, they have contracted cancers because it hurt their health, because they were breathing in this toxic, just horribleness. And did you know that we have just crossed the threshold of those who, there's been more people who died from the toxins, inhaling the toxins, than people who died that day.
I can imagine.
Not a lot of people know that. There's almost 3,000 people who died on 9/11. There's been just over 3,000 people who have died since of the cancers related to the toxins, and they have counted over, I think, 60 or 70 cancers that are related to it. Wow. You have heard that, did you say?
I do know that, like, for example, when you said something about people jumping in the river, I'm wondering how many people actually did die from that, because I know they said 3,000 from the building, but I'm sure there's many more people who couldn't swim. People were jumping out of the tower. Well, they were part of the building, I guess.
I don't think it was probably a lot. There is a new video by Vice that it's basically a short video of a retelling of the boat evacuation. And one of the boat captains talked about going around in boats and plucking people out of the New York harbor who had tried to do that. Yeah. So that would be interesting to know. But I do happen to know that a lot of them were pulled out of the river. So at least that's a good thing. And the Coast Guard was aware that people were doing such a thing. But at any rate, so a lot of people have died from cancers, and our health has been compromised in different ways too. And we know that it's related. A lot of people think that if people have died from the cancers, it's the people who worked on the pile, rescue workers, construction workers, but actually it was quite a few of us, as from residents to students, to tourists, to employees. So it's affected a lot of people. And so I got a bad case of COVID, and I believe I got a bad case because my immune system was compromised from 9/11. So in my mind, they're actually related calamities. I don't think I would have gotten COVID as bad if I hadn't been through 9/11, right? So I was hospitalized twice, and I was told that I had a 50% chance of surviving. And it was bad. It was bad. I definitely at one point felt close to death. I literally felt that my body was shutting down, and my mind was doing some weird stuff. It was almost like it was pulling away from the earth. It was just shutting down. And I think it was a very close call from me. I don't think I'll get as close to dying until I actually die, as close as it gets. But it was another thing that you don't hear a lot about, but it was a painful experience. It was just pain. I've never hurt so bad in my life, my whole body. And it just, I still have to this day what they call long haul syndrome. So I never did regain things like my sense of taste and smell. I have nerve damage issues. I have some digestive tract issues.
Oh, God.
So, but I will say, I mean, I don't want to sound whiny. I truly am glad to be here, because even now I realize how close that came for me. And I'm just glad that I survived it. But it was a close call, and it was definitely no fun. And, in those early days in March when I caught it, there was so little known about it, what it would do to your body. In America, they were talking about this particular drug, hydroxychloroquine, that was supposed to cure you. And actually, the hospital gave it to me, which is fine. I would have taken cyanide if I was going to get better from that. And it was so, I didn't care what it was, obviously. And my body had such a bad allergic reaction to that it helped me along the path of them thinking I might die. Right.
Oh,
so it did the opposite from me. And so it was just one of those, it was such an experimental early days, and nobody really knew what was going on or how to treat, or if there was anything to treat. And it was definitely a scary time, because people were dying all around me. And of course you heard how awful it was in New York. I mean, people were literally dying everywhere around New York. So it was being in I kind of felt like a guinea pig, right? Like
yeah, sure.
Because in March, I was the first of almost all of my Facebook friends, or all my friends. I was definitely like the first person they knew to get it. And they're like, oh my God, I could tell that they were shocked because they still felt that it was far away. But when I got it, people were like, nope, it's here. So it was, I felt alone and isolated because we were so new to it. And the whole virus was so new in the United States, or new to us, meaning we all know now that was there in 2019, right? But it was just, the whole thing was such a shock.
Actually, I think I actually had it as well, but not like you. It didn't kill me or anything. I got sick in August. I had tonsillitis. So my glands had come up, and I was like, I suffered with that for some strange reason. And so I was out of work for 2 weeks. I was like, man, I got me pretty bad, man. I was like, it's never been that bad. But then a couple of weeks later, maybe a month later, I got sick again. And I was like, wait there, no, this ain't right. I've never been sick so close together in my whole life, in my whole existence. I've never been sick close together. So I think the second time was actually COVID. That took me out as well. It was like a really bad flu. I couldn't get up. I was dehydrated completely. Lost all the water. I couldn't walk. I couldn't leave the bed. I was out. But then after a couple of days, I was all right. But I could still taste and everything. Everything's still there. So I I guess it's one of my things. And since then, I've had no issues at all. I came into contact with a couple of people who actually were tested positive and never got anything. So,
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if I'm still like some sort of immune to it, but I don't know.
Well, my friends have been vaccinated. We've been vaccinated, and I I'm glad that we're emerging. New York is opening up. They just announced that everything will be open in July. Broadway shows are coming back in September, but I have to say that doesn't make me instantly happy, because I'm thinking of India, I'm thinking of Madagascar, I'm thinking of South Africa. That's lovely that is a country that we're emerging, and that people can get vaccinated if they choose to. But I'm very worried and concerned and sad for countries around the world, because to me, until we're all out of this thing, it's not it's still there. It's still I'm not a cheerleader just because the United States is getting better. I'm very worried about other countries.
Yeah, I think what you're seeing in India at the moment as well, because it's really extreme at the moment. Although I still don't know if they're ahead of you guys with cases. But what you see with India is basically, everyone lives so close, proximity is so close. So if one person gets infected, there's going to be some severe collateral damage.
Well, same thing in South Africa, same thing in Madagascar, and actually same thing in New York City. That's why New York City got it so bad, is because we all live on top of each other.
Oh, that's true, yeah. I forgot about that. But you automatically think with New York City, you think Western world, they're wealthy, they're good, doctors have got it all under control. But then when you think of India, you're like, okay, the best doctors have left India. They're in America now. So who did they leave there?
Yeah, I have to say, like, I have some friends in South Africa, and I said, go get some Tylenol, at least have Tylenol. Because, like I said, I found it so excruciating that about the only solace I could get physically was from Tylenol. But my friend couldn't even find Tylenol. And I remember thinking, oh my God, after the pain that I endured, and they don't even have, some of my friends couldn't even get Tylenol. It just hurt my heart. I was like, oh, because I wouldn't wish the pain on anybody.
No. So what do you think about the handling? Do you think that America's slow at handling it? I mean, I don't want you to expect you to dog your own country out, but do you think it was too slow? Obviously, it was the good guy, regardless of what anyone thinks. Regardless of anyone
all have our own opinions over here, and people have extreme opinions, just like the conspiracy theorists. They have their opinions, and other people have their opinions. Yes, I thought it was slow. Yeah,
you thought it was slow.
Yeah. And here's the thing: like, give it to Americans. Americans are independent people. It's hard to tell Americans that as corporately we need to do X, Y, and Z, because that's not our culture. Our culture is independent. Our culture is, I am in charge of my own life and my own health, and I'm going to do things how I want to do them. So it's I have to say, because that's our cultural heritage, our cultural background, it's hard for us to get into the vaccination mask kind of thing, because again, people call the shots, people live the life that they want to, and it's hard as a culture for us to conform and do everything all together, because we're just not set out. Our culture doesn't foster that kind of that's not our culture. So but for me, masks all the way. Yeah, I wear masks now, even though I've been vaccinated, and because it's my way of telling people I care about their health as well, and that's just how I look at it.
Yeah, actually, so I'm located in Germany at the moment, and we've actually just gone back into lockdown there's no future of us actually coming out at the moment, simply because we don't have enough. I think they said there's an 80 million population, and I think they said 30 million have got the first jab, 9% have got the 2 jabs. So we're so far behind. Like, for example, somewhere I'm from England, compared to England, I think they've pretty much vaccinated 50 million people out of the 60 that are there. And I'm like, how is Germany's considered a better country than England at the moment economically? But for some reason, they're just still behind. And it's like, what is this? So I'm sitting here now inside. I'm not allowed to go out. I forgot we got a curfew. So we're not allowed to go out after 10. We have to be inside our house. And if anyone who goes out after 10 can be fined up to 5,000, I think, euros. So I completely understand. Like the Americans, I feel like you guys got the choice, and I would like to have that choice too.
Oh yeah.
The choice of my life. I don't like that someone out there can decide if I can go out or not, especially because in the whole, okay, apart from the case where I said I might have caught it 2 years ago or in 2019, I've not had any, problems with it up till now. Okay, I don't want any problems with it, but I've not had any, and I feel like I should be able to choose, of course, with caution, if I can go and see somebody, a friend, or my family. I think that's my human right, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I just know for me, I wanted to get vaccinated. I'm very glad I had the opportunity to get vaccinated, and I feel very safe at this point. I tell you, I felt safe anyway after having the virus, because I felt like my body had fought that fight. I mean, I understand that people had it twice. I get that. That could have happened again as well, and I certainly don't ever want to go through that experience again. I'm just glad again that everybody can get vaccinated here. I'm very thankful for that if people choose to. And again, yeah, we have an independent culture. People, that's how kind of our country began, and so it carries on into a situation like this that can put people on two different camps, and certainly people have very extreme opinions about vaccinations and masks and things like that. But that's what our country has fostered, and that's what we got.
I just for you, as I just going back quickly, the guy who did that Last House Standing documentary, he said the same thing about you. He echoed basically what you said about the Americans. They don't like to listen. I remember that stood out to me. I was like, oh, okay. So, because I said to him, I said, why don't you just tell American people, okay, look, don't build your house on the beach because we have like threats of tornadoes and hurricanes. It's probably not a good idea. And he was like, they won't listen. They'll still do it anyway because they don't want to be told what to do. I'm like, yeah. I can't help you then.
I mean, I have to say, like in some ways, me being from the South and me living in the North, they talk bad about each other. There's cultural, slams and saying, oh, the American South, blah, blah, blah. And the North is like this. But I feel like I see both sides. I mean, I'm from both cultures. I've lived my adult life in the North, but I was born and raised deep in the South. So I feel like I get all sides. Yeah. Of course, I know in my perfect world, I would have my world set up, America set up as A, B, and C. But at the same time, at one point I can say, hey, I think it's great that we have that kind of cultural heritage, that we want to live our human existence in a way that we see fit. And so I get that, but there's other part of me can get the other thing. So this is where it bites us in the butt. So I feel like I see all sides. And again, the fact is it's done. The fact is our culture is our culture, and we just have to live with each other, and we have to live with the fact that like even in the same town that I'm at, I am my ideas and my politics and my likes and dislikes are completely and utterly at odds with my neighbor down the street, and that's just the way it goes. And I like to think that I still have I can still have compassion and not be too judgy and not go to the dark side if somebody completely disagrees with me. I wish everybody was like that. That's not the case.
No, definitely not. Okay, so tell us about your two books. You got Out of the Shadow of 9/11 and Faith in the Face of COVID-19.
Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and just say both of them are my experiences of living through COVID, of living through 9/11. I approached the 9/11 book also like a New York City tour guide, so I have some facts and figures in there, and some of these stories that I told you about, like the boat evacuation, that's not a well-known story. But the X factor is they do have a Christian slant to them, because I did rely on my faith in both situations. So it might not be the book for everybody if they're not interested in hearing that particular angle, and I totally respect that. But I just wanted to put it out there that one of the ways that I was able to deal with both of these calamities in my life was to fall on my faith and my belief system in the afterlife and in Jesus to pull me through those really dark times. So if anybody's interested in that angle, they might like my book. And again, I'm also just very honest and say like what I felt. there's a lot of detail and description that of what it felt like to go through both of those. So, but yeah, so I spent I wasn't a writer. I spent like 5 years on the first book, and the first one only took me about a year. And I write a lot of articles on 9/11 and COVID ever since. But I have to say, writing is very creative, and it's also very cathartic. You go through something life-changing, and everybody has different ways of dealing with it and adjusting to their new normal. And one way that I was able to kind of deal with it, move on, deal with PTSD is to write. So that's just my creative outlet.
That's awesome. Okay, then let me know your handles. Obviously, we've come to the end of the show. It's a shame. I would have talked to you again, though. I need to talk to you. And you got to promise when I come. You're still in New York, and yeah. When I come to New York again, because I've got to come. I've got to bring the kids. My daughter's already like, I'm going to New York. So when I come, I want to go on your tour guide.
Absolutely. I'll give you and your family a private tour. And just so you know too, I am writing a third book, but my next book, it's going to be happy. It's going to be a happy book.
Hey, actually, these books are happy though, because you survived.
Yes, no, they are very happy. They're very happy.
That's positive.
My next book is going to be about what I call tour guide shenanigans, like some of the crazy things that have happened on my almost 30 years of being a tour guide. So it's going to be funny and fun. So, but at any rate, but yes, actually, and you get a free tour for you.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about that. What's some of the funny things? But actually, I'll wait for the book.
Oh, that's another one. But I got a lot of them.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
All
right. Then tell me where we can find you, your website, everything.
Christina Ray Stanton. So ChristiNaRayStanton. So ChristinaRayStanton.com, and that's all my stuff.
And we can find you on Facebook, Instagram.
Same old thing.
YouTube.
And I do want to mention something too. It might not mean a hill of beans, but I like to mention it anyway. that any money I ever would get from the books, or actually for that matter, any articles that I write, my husband and I established a nonprofit about 4 years ago that is meant to help. Basically, I fell in love with South Africa 10 years ago, and I support orphanages in South Africa. I have a passion for the AIDS epidemic, and so it supports orphanages that has people, kids who are affected and affected by HIV. But at any rate, so any funds I ever get goes straight overseas. So awesome. Just want to throw that out there. My nonprofit's called lovingallnations.org. That's also on my Christina Ray Stanton.
Yeah, I'm gonna go find out. I'm gonna see if I can make a donation.
That's my actual passion is my love for South Africa.
Any plans to move over there?
Yes.
I love it.
Yes. As a matter of fact, the first time I went there was 2009, and I was like, oh my God, this is like home.
Yeah.
And I've been back every year ever since. So yeah.
That's like me in Brazil. Like I'm 2 years. I want to be in Brazil. That's it. 2 years.
Isn't that funny how that happens? Sometimes you can just travel and you're like, hello, hallelujah.
Yeah.
That's for no reason.
Yeah, you just feel foreign in your own country. Like, actually, I don't even fit the culture. Like, I live in Germany now, so I'm nothing like a German person. I do not belong here. I know that. The Germans know that too. They make me know that I don't belong here. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to do you guys a favor and myself. I'm going to get out of this place as soon as possible. And that's what I'm going to do. So I'll give it another 2 years. I never felt at home in England either. I was like, England, it's home, but it's not home. Brazil now, I feel like, wow, this is my home. This is where I belong. So 2 more years and I'm out.
Wow.
I've suffered enough.
Well, okay. So here's my parting. If you're a Christian, you're not home here anyway. Right?
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, if we're Christians, we're pilgrims, and this isn't our home anyway. And so I do actually feel that way, and I do love America. I love my country, but yeah, I love the world. I've always had a passion for other countries, and I found kind of everything that means something to me in South Africa. So, all right, South Africa, I'm coming for you. KwaZulu-Natal, I love you.
Yes. All right. Thanks for joining me. I want to get you back on because we need to talk about some of your adventures. I'm going to send you a new invite a month or two down the line. I got to check. But I won't forget. Yeah, don't worry.
All right.
All right, then. Thanks a lot.
Have a good comment, Saturday.
Subscribe. Yeah. Do all that stuff if you want to. It's up to you. Thank you, Christina.
Bye,
Good night.
guys.
Bye.